All right, we are live here for our APL Under the Radar Game Week 9 preview video. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm here with my buddy, as always, APL Wrangler. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey buddy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you? How was your international break?
Yes, good. Yeah, I didn't miss APL much. I did miss football a little bit on the weekends, but I was traveling also last weekend. So, yeah, didn't miss a whole lot, to be honest. Didn't think about APL that much either. So, yeah, it was a good break. How was yours?
Yeah, was very busy really, so didn't come to Twitter much. Really was not able to catch up. But yeah, it was a break. I really didn't think about FPL. I did wildcard last week, right? So
Hmm.
didn't have to think about much except just looking for some injury news. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it was okay. I mean, was not refreshing really because as I said, it was kind of busy work-wise and personal life-wise, but it's all right.
yeah, 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 yeah. And it was good to be back to see some football. Good weekend also, right? We have a couple of derbies this weekend: the Manchester
Yes.
Derby and the North London Derby. So good matches. And good that APL is back also now, so we can at least talk about it. Kind of last moment video for us. And ZD couldn't be here with us today. He got busy with his friends. Um, but he is wildcarding this week, so we were hoping that he could at least be here and talk us through what he's thinking about his wildcard. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here. I will at least probably talk about a little bit here and there about wildcard or game week 9 and etc. But with that, let's get started. So we have basically, as we always do, we'll start with the team and player stats. We'll talk a little bit about kind of forward-looking game week 9 to 12 and 13 to 16. What are the teams and players to target, etc. It's basically kind of two different sections of before the World Cup, right? We have 9 to 12, especially in game week 12 when Arsenal and City blanks. So that's something that kind of we have to think about. So there's a little bit of before and after that game week 12. So we'll touch on that also. What are the teams and players to target? So let's just first go through the team data from game week 1 to 8, as we have been looking at this pretty much throughout the season. Nothing really changed, right, from the last time we looked at it. City is still very good. Liverpool attack has been very good from the beginning, but they have looked somewhat better, or at least has looked better in the last few game weeks. Arsenal has been very good, but they also had very good fixtures too, right? So some of these teams, especially Arsenal and City, their fixtures for the first 8 game weeks were really, really good, right? And as expected, they did good as well. Even some of the smaller teams like Brighton, Brentford, and Leeds, they also started the season with very good fixtures, and as expected, they did pretty well, right? So of course, fixtures matter. Of course, form also matters, team structure matters, etc., etc. Players matter, but at the same time, fixtures matter. I mean, that's the only known thing in FPL, if anything, right? You play the fixtures, right? So that's something that we'll talk a whole lot about in our today's video. Elsewhere, Forest still looks like the punching bag. Bournemouth looks poor. I think they have finally a new coach, right? If I'm not wrong. So they do have a new coach. I don't know much about them, how they're going to be, whether they'll be a little more defensive or not. But they have been like shambolic so far, right? They just don't look Premier League level so far, both Forest and Bournemouth, to be honest. Um, but some of the teams, as we spoke about in our peak game week 8 video as well, some of the teams that on this chart looks kind of on the poorer side, like Crystal Palace, Leicester, they or even Aston Villa, West Ham, right? Some of those teams are kind of do look bad on this chart, but their fixtures are turning, right? So starting from game week 9, so that's interesting. Anything else that catches your eye from a team perspective? What we have
No,
Any?
I think you covered it well. Yeah, because we're gonna deep dive anyways in next fixtures, right? So
Mhm,
as you mentioned, some of the teams are looking bad in
mhm.
terms of like data in this plot, but again, after 8 or 9 weeks, 9 game weeks, probably this chart is gonna completely change because of the
Yeah.
fixture, because you play the fixture. So yeah.
Yeah, just one thing I was looking at Chelsea. So Chelsea is still kind of an unknown territory, right? So for us, for everyone. So still mostly wait and watch. We don't even know what formation Potter is going to play. He does have the tendency to even switch between formations from match to match based on the opponents. I saw a news in Twitter today that Koulibaly potentially will be benched this game week. So really a lot of unknowns there also, right? So Chelsea's fixtures are kind of turning better. Their fixtures are not the worst from 9 to 16, but again, a lot of unknown information there. All right, so let's move on. Let's move to the player stats. Um, so basically, again, I mean, this is basically showing the uh, non-penalty X points essentially, right? Attacking points. Uh, as you can basically treat this as FPL points essentially, and kind of a combination of midfielders, forwards. This is a nice way to kind of compare midfielders, forwards, and defenders in a way, at least how much attacking threat they have from that perspective. So what kind of catches my eye on here are the Leeds boys, of course. We all knew like Leeds were doing pretty good. Rodrigo, especially in absence of Bamford, was looking very, very good. I think he had like at one point like 30% ownership. Now he's down to like 5% because they did not have a game, and then he got injured, etc., etc. Right? So his ownership is down, but Leicester's fixtures are not the worst. Again, we'll talk about it, so I don't want to talk about that too much. But Rodrigo looks like a good option if Bamford is fit and back. He could be very much a good option as well. But again, kind of an unknown territory. I don't know. We don't know what his fitness is. Elsewhere, the Leicester forwards could be good given their fixtures, also, right? But again, the unknown thing is like what formation Rogers is going to play, whether he's going to play Madison, Vardy, and Barnes maybe in a front three. Then neither Nacho or Daka play, right? So that's kind of an unknown for us. Uh, and the boys on the top right, we kind of all know, right? We are already targeting those players. Jesus is still good. Kane is still good. It just kind of depends on your team structure and the fixtures that you're targeting, whether you want to have those guys or not. Starling is interesting. As we just said, Chelsea is still kind of an unknown territory. Starling did play kind of a very advanced left wing back role in the only game under Potter, but again, we don't know necessarily, right? Although on paper he was the left wing back, but he was literally the most advanced player for Chelsea on the pitch. So Sterling could be a very good option moving forward. His price point is a little weird, 10 million, but he could be a good option. Son's stats are starting to look better, right? He did score that hat trick, that 13-minute hat trick last game week, starting to look better. Salah is up there as always. He is some of the cheaper, popular options. Zaha, Martinelli, Gross, all of them are there. Isak is also up there. Unfortunately, he got injured. Right? I know you got him on wildcard. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, forwards have done well so far, as we have spoken about before as well. At least in comparison to last season, where we were literally struggling to find even one forward. Now we have like tons of forwards that we want, right? Anything that catches your eye, or any specific players that you are targeting that you don't have on your wildcard team, Game of Eight wildcard team?
Yeah, Zaha. I mean, a lot of people had Zaha. His picture was not the best, but still his number looked good, right? And he was nailed. He's on penalties,
Hmm.
and his their fixtures are turning good, right? So we're going to talk about this more.
Hmm.
Um, Son, right? Even game week 8, we are completely kind of discarding him. His numbers
Yeah.
were so poor just in 1 week, right? If you see in terms of minutes now, he played only 30 minutes and
Hmm.
his numbers just bumped up. But in terms of like average minutes, still 75, right? So that's like about FPL, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this type of player can change things all on a sudden. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think yeah, he covered it well. It's just again, um, this is based on previous fixture, but we have a fixture swing now, so we'll see how it goes. Starling, another one, something to look for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, as you said, Chelsea is kind of unknown territory. Whether Sterling is going to play Trossard role, I guess he already did in last game.
Yeah.
So we have to see. But again, I think Starling and Jesus, sorry, Zaha are the two players that I don't own, but I'm going to look closely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think.
Okay, all right. So, and some of the other players that we'll talk about, right? Madison, Bowen. We spoke about them last week also a little bit when we did talk about them in our pre-game week 8 video. Their stats are not quite up there, right? But again, because their fixtures are there, and we, again, we'll show you guys or we'll see why we are talking about them at all, despite them not being anywhere near this chart, right? Madison's stats are poor, Bowen's fixtures or stats are poor, but they are in consideration. Maybe Bowen not as much after last game week. It was kind of the optimal time maybe to get in Bowen in game week 8. But he was involved to some extent, but again, no returns yet, right? It's already 8 game week over, still no returns.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
kind of worrying.
last game actually was you see West Ham, they looked so tired. I mean, again, they played
Yep.
Thursday and then on Sunday it was so
Rhodes break,
difficult for
yeah.
them as well. But
Mhm.
if there is only one player who did, I mean, look promising, that's Bowen. That was Bowen
Yep.
actually. Otherwise, no other player really caught my eyes. So
Yep.
from West Ham side. So
Yep. All right. Okay. So let's move on to the fixtures. And again, this is from Lego Mane, and the uniqueness of this particular format is that he's showing the rest days between one game to the other. For game week 9 to 16, it's a very very tight fixture. Right? As we all know that because of the World Cup, we are going to have a big break. But before that, there is literally like fixture crunch. Right? All the big teams, almost all the big teams have fixtures on every midweek, right? So there is literally like in average 2 to 3 rest days from one game to the other. If you look at it, like look at Liverpool, right? They're like all red, right? Literally all red. Uh, I don't think they have any game other than that Arsenal and then game week 15 Tottenham game. All of their games they have a max rest day of like 3 days, right? So that's very tough for them. Cities looks better to some respect because of their again UCL fixture how that falls. Chelsea again looks very bad, pretty similar to that of Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal. None of them really look good. So right, so any team who is in Europe is going to be like bloodbath, right? From game week 9 to 16, like literally playing 3 games every week. So yeah, so I mean that's going to be something very interesting. And then of course there is World Cup as well. So kind of back end of uh, this set of fixtures, there will be players being rested because they don't want to risk themselves because they're going to go play for their national teams in the World Cup. So a lot to look out for, right? So we had a good long break of 2 weeks, but the next few weeks are going to be like really, really crunch time for all of us. Anything that catches your eye? Of course, we'll talk about the fixture swing, but apart from that, any
yeah,
comments?
one thing I felt like probably Man City will be in better shape, even if you see right, it's not that bad. And hoping like by game week 12, I mean their UCL condition is actually better, right?
Already better, yeah.
Already better. And now I think if they can win against Copenhagen, and that's the like
Home and
weak,
away, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
home and away, like, and that's kind of weaker side as well, right, in that group.
Hmm.
So, and if that can be like kind of decided, then actually they can focus on the they actually
Yep.
have a good gap and they can focus on the
They can
other hand for
afford to rest players
exactly,
seamlessly
right.
as well,
While
yeah.
for Liverpool, they have a bad fixture anyways from 9, from at least 10
Hmm.
and 11, and then I think their UCL, it's going to be difficult as well, right? They're going to play Ajax, Napoli, right? So it's all
Yeah.
difficult games. So Salah, yeah, probably will be nailed, but others, right? We saw even Trent got subbed off at 58 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Jota is back, which is good, right? This is really good for Liverpool and for FPL as well. So something to see. Now they have Jota, they have Firmino, they have Darwin, and they have Diaz, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's gonna be exciting time, but I think something to look forward, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. Game week 12, after game week 12, so from game week 13 we'll get probably some clear ideas, but
Mm-hmm.
let's see. Yeah,
Yeah, I
those
mean
are the
that.
two teams I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, so that also kind of signifies why you maybe want to at least look into some other teams who are not in Europe, right? At least their talismans, right? Leicester, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, even maybe in some cases Aston Villa, etc., Fulham. So, I mean, of course, you don't want to get like two, three players from each of those sides, but you can at least afford to look at some of those players because their fixtures doesn't look ad bad. They probably will play 90 minutes every game week and so on, right? So it's that balance you have to find essentially, whether you are wildcarding or you are still using a free transfer, whatever it is. So that kind of nice balance has to be there, right? So yeah, so that's basically the fixture. So with that, let's move on to uh, some of the fixture swings that we are looking at for the big teams. So starting with the big teams, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so basically in next few slide, including this one, we're gonna talk about the we actually categorize in three different ways. So this is basically the top teams where we have most of the premium players, right? Like Salah, KDB, Son, Haaland, basically the big teams, right? And we are showing the XG considered of these teams from game week 9 to 12, which is in the left hand side plot. And then in game week 13 to 16, the XG considered of their opponents, right? Because essentially we are looking for the players who have a good attacking fixture, right? So an XG considered of their opponents is a good metric to like evaluate, right? That how their fixtures look like. Now we are showing the box and whisker plots here, and I mean not going into the details of the statistics, but again, it's basically like for each data set for the um, each end of the whisker, like you see there are two end lines, top and bottom. Those kind of the maximum and minimum of xg considered of their opponents, and the cross in the box is basically the mean of the data point, and the medium line is basically the median, right? So essentially, if you see from in the left hand side, like Arsenal, Liverpool, and even Man City, right? Their XG considered of their opponents are in the lower end. So basically, their fixtures are not the best, right? And if you see Chelsea's fixture probably is the best from 9 to 12, but as you mentioned already, right? It's kind of a wait and see. No, like we don't know Aubameyang or even Sterling or Mason Mount how it's gonna be lined up. Potter is gonna probably give chances to like all the players because so that he can get his best 11. So it's kind of a no, like watch and see, no go. Now Spurs is the interesting one, right? Their fixtures actually looks better, especially in game week 11. They are playing against Everton, and Spurs actually probably the like best captaincy shout in 11, right? Um, Now we're gonna talk about Son and Salah later, but in the right hand side again, those teams are now their fixture turning really good. As you see, the XG considered of their opponents are kind of bumping up, especially like it's Arsenal and Liverpool because they are playing against Nottingham Forest, so it's kind of skewed up for that, especially because their XG considered is like two plus, right? But all of the teams except Chelsea, all of the teams actually fixture turning good. Now the question here is that let's start with like who did wildcard in game week 8, right? So a lot of people got rid of Salah, especially those who wildcard in game week 8, right? Because Liverpool blanked in 8, and a lot of people went for either Kane or KDB, right? So one question is now this week Salah is playing against Brighton, right? While KDB is playing against Man United. Now, if you have Kane, yeah, definitely you hold him maybe. But if you have Salah and if you can do one move from, sorry, if you have KDB and if can do one move from KDB to Salah, and if you like, do you should you do it? What's your thought on that, Kante?
I wouldn't. I mean, if you are wildcarding on game week 9, Salah is probably a valid option. Given that you probably want him for game week 12 anyways.
Hmm.
But if you wildcarded in game week 8, someone like you, I wouldn't do the KDB to Salah move, to be honest. First of
Unless
all,
you
I mean,
captain, right? Unless you captain.
you probably won't with Haaland in the team, right? Why would you captain KDB over Haaland? Right? I don't think anyone would, right? Either you captain Salah. I mean, sorry, yeah, that's what you're talking about. So yeah, if you bring in Salah and if you captain him, that's the only reason that you um, do it. Yeah, I mean, even
Mhm.
so, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you already committed to that move in your on your wild card, I know it was a blank for Liverpool. It just doesn't quite make sense. It kind of sounds like an almost a wasted transfer. And
Right. But I mean,
KDB is kind of a big game guy, right? So Man United and then also
yeah,
Liverpool in 11. So
that is true. But again, I think those who went for KDB, right? Or even Kane. I mean, Kane is different equation because game week 11 is a key here for Kane.
mhm,
But for KDB, I think those who went for KDB, they also kind of booked the transfer that they're gonna bring Salah, like even me, right? Removing KDB now or later, right?
later, mostly
Right,
later, though,
right.
right? Yeah.
But between game week 8 and 9, one of the key differences is that the information that, like Jota is back, or even their defense look good, right? Matip is back and Thiago is back. So
Hmm.
that changed a lot of things. They won against Ajax as well, right? So those are the information actually now playing role, and that's why people are thinking since those players came back now, they might look better. So again, go back to Salah, and Salah looked good, right? He also scored in the international break.
Yeah.
So I think that's the information people are thinking maybe, and that's where like I see some dilemma here in the community. So that's why I'm asking. I would
Yeah.
not probably do it unless I captain Salah. Okay.
Yeah. Same,
Uh,
same, same thoughts. But yeah, I mean, on wild card, I think it's
yeah.
kind of
Now
a
let's come to the wild card
yeah.
since you mentioned like in game week 9,
Mhm.
right? So Spurs fixture look really good. At least, I mean, they have not London Derby, but they usually played good, right? And they have 10 and 11, as you mentioned. 11, it's a standout captain option. Now, do you think it's a good option to you first because you are wild carding, right? So basically, you are picking up all the good players. Like
Mhm.
we're going to talk about other players in the next slides. So you kind of have less booking transfer here,
Yeah.
right? So, do you think it's viable to you get Son now, and then in game week 12 you get Salah from Son to Salah?
Yeah, absolutely. Very viable, I think. I mean, Son generally has a good record against Arsenal also, so it's not a fixture that you still can expect something from him in the Arsenal fixture, and then the next two are decent fixtures, anyways, right? Brighton and Everton,
Yeah, I
and then
think.
you
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
make
Sorry.
the switch. Then you make the switch in game week 12 potentially to Salah, right? But I think it's a very valid
Yeah,
move to
I,
pick.
I I think so. I actually like that move by the way
Hmm.
because and you can actually also judge Liverpool in the meantime that
Yeah.
because they actually have difficult fixture, like they are playing Arsenal, they are playing Man City, right? And then in 12, yeah, because you start needing Liverpool, especially since Man City and Arsenal are blanking, right? And in 13 they are playing Nottingham Forest. So I
Hmm.
think probably it can wait. I think Son is a
Yeah, and I
valid
mean,
option. I
Salah
think.
is still expensive, right? It's not like that
Right.
he's suddenly cheap or anything. He's still 12.8 million. So you're
Yeah.
committing that money knowing that you have the Arsenal and City fixtures
And
upcoming.
you're not captaining anyways. I mean,
And you
if
are
you
not
captain,
captaining
yeah,
him,
if you
right? Yeah.
captain, that's the different
Yeah.
ball game,
Maybe
right?
game week 9 you captain him, but yeah, I mean, still again on wild card, it's not the worst thing because you know that you would want him in game week 12 anyways. So you don't want to book in that transfer. But if someone wants to go with Son, knowing that you don't have any other book transfers in game week 10 and 11, your team is all set up elsewhere. I think it's a perfectly viable move to go with some.
Okay. Yeah. I thought so too. We can talk about Martinelli here, by the way.
Hmm.
Or we can talk in later. But let's start here and then we can go to the next slide. So what about Martinelli? Like those who already wildcarded in game week 8, they kept him. But in game week 9 wildcarders,
Hmm.
right? I know. I mean, okay. Let me talk about the game week 13 who are thinking 12 later, right? I think they can remove, Martinelli now because they are wildcarding in 13, they're gonna get again back Martinelli because Arsenal is playing Nottingham Forest in 14, right? So
Yeah.
in 13, you can again get him back, and I think you're gonna probably lose zero point 0.1 or zero point 0.2 million of his price, which is okay, I think. And I
Yep.
think Martinelli can go. I think that's my personal like opinion. Those who are wildcarding in 13, but in 9, those who are wildcarding in 9, I think it's kind of a huge dilemma that you keep Martinelli or let him go. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of on one of those things. I mean, there you can of course still target the fixtures between 9 to 12 with another player. Honestly, there are not a whole lot of options in that price bracket. If Rashford was fit, maybe the Leeds boys, Sinistera or Rodrigo, someone like that. Brighton has a good fixture in 12, but that's about it, right? So we'll talk about those guys also, the enablers. But there are not necessarily a whole lot of players in that price range, right? So if you do think that you want him back in Force and the Forest fixture in game week 14, maybe you keep him. But I do see that at least there is an opportunity if you ever want to move Martinelli. This is kind of the right time, right? With Tottenham, with Liverpool, and the game week 12 blanks. Essentially, you can count it about as like kind of almost three tough fixtures in the next four game weeks, right? So I think it's perfectly viable. Again, you don't want to book in too many transfers, right? You don't want to go for a Son and then someone else and then book those transfers. Okay, I will get it Salah in game week 12. I'll get in Martinelli in game week 13. As long as your game team is set elsewhere, I think it's okay to go without. And don't worry about the value, right? I mean, you will get
Mhm.
it back, and there is a very valid chance that he will be mass transferred out before game of 12 will go down in price. Anyways, get him back in game of 13 once he does, right? So that's okay. That's perfectly fine, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially like those who are wildcarding in game week 9, they have to just find out or make sure that their best 11 in game week 12, right?
Mhm.
So as you said, right, if you don't book much transfer, I think you can let Martinelli go
Yeah,
because you are essentially getting all the good players that is required, and game week 12 you are taking care of as well because our Martinelli is anyways blanking in game week 12, right? So you're getting one
right.
extra player and maybe good player. And if you remove Martinelli, I'm going to actually talk later as well. I think you can afford all the three good midfielder actually, like all like so Boyens or Zaha or Madison. So let's go to the next slide.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a good segue to this discussion.
Hmm.
So here, basically, we are picking up now those teams which have good fixture swing, and also those teams which have like mid-priced mids and attackers. And I mean, you already know, like viewers who are watching us, I think they already know that like those are already known people. So Brentford and Tony is one of them. We have Leicester City here and Madison. Newcastle, we had Isak before, but there is a reason, right? People went for Isak because if you see in the left hand side, Newcastle's fixture actually looked good from 9 to 12, and then Crystal Palace and West Ham, right? So those are the teams which have good fixture and also they're, as you say, the talismans, right? They are the talismans. There are players in their team who actually had good underlying data and some of them at least, but their fixtures look good. Now, in the left hand side, if you see like Leicester City, right, kind of dominating compared to everyone, right? And their fixture like Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, and
Yeah.
Leeds.
It
You see
cannot get
growth.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, it cannot be get like better than that, right?
Hmm.
Their XG data was not the best, but again, there are magical moments of Madison every time. He always overperformed, right? And that's why Madison is becoming very popular. His EO is gonna shoot high. Newcastle, Isak is injured, so probably nothing to talk much. Crystal Palace, if you see compare from left to right, Crystal Palace picture actually even getting better in the right hand side, right? So
Hmm.
Zaha is a huge long term pick. I mean, hopefully if he remains fit, their fixture is so good. Except Chelsea, if you see Leeds, Leicester City, Wolves, Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Nottingham Forest. I mean, so good. So that's why Zaha is a kind of a must pick. Like those who are wildcarding in game week 9, those who didn't wildcard yet, who was gonna wildcard in game week 13, I think they are kind of matching by transferring him in. with the wildcarders, and game week 8 people already either brought him or thinking to bring him, right?
Yep.
uh, West Ham here is an interesting one. So Bowen, as you mentioned, like last week, is a kind of optimal one from, if you think, from 9 to 12 to bring him. But actually West Ham's picture actually become even better in 13 to 16, if you see, at least as of
Yep.
now, the data that we have. And except Liverpool, West Ham's picture actually looks good.
Hmm.
Fulham, and then Bournemouth, they have Leicester City, Crystal Palace. So those are actually good fixture. Except Liverpool, their fixture look good. So I mean, Zaha was my planned move from Bowen, and that was in the like 10 and 11 for me at least. But now, in case Bowen does good in 9 and 10, especially if they're playing against Fulham, then I'll be in trouble. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But
Hmm.
anyway, I really want Bowen to do good as well. So Bowen is gonna be an interesting pick. If you already have him, I think you hold him, unless you don't have Madison. I think Madison is probably a must pick in game week 9, and this is the time you bring him. Zaha probably can wait because you are playing against Chelsea now. You can wait, and from 10 or 11 you can start.
Hmm.
Now, going back to that Martinelli discussion, right? If you get rid of Martinelli, you can probably afford all of these three. By the way, like either Tony, like any three combination. I
Yep.
think Zaha. Well, with Tony also you can, with Madison. Sorry, with Martinelli, I think a lot of people can do like Tony, Madison, and Zaha is possible. If you have Bowen, then it's not possible because Bowen in 1 million expensive, right?
Hmm.
But if you want to have Bowen, then I think you have to get rid of Martinelli to get two other. So I think Martinelli, removing Martinelli can enable, because you can get Solanke. We're gonna get to the next slide, Bournemouth, right? But I think Martinelli can go. That's my
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, I think the other option could possibly be if you can extend without changing anything else. If you can extend to maybe even like a Harvey Barnes, given that you have already Madison. It's not a Madison or Barnes. If you have Madison already, Madison still is the talisman of that team. So if you want to get one player from Leicester, I think it has to be Madison in that attack. But if you have that second spot, all right, either you wildcard it in game week 8 or you are wildcarding in game week 9, whatever it is, I think Martinelli to Barnes even is a very good option, right? The next four again reads Forest, Bournemouth, Palace, and Leicester, right? And three out of those four are home fixtures too, right? So I mean, if you want to take chance, FPL is all about taking chances, right? So I don't think Barnes is the worst option either. You just keep Barnes until 12, and then you move on to someone like Martinelli or someone like that, right? The other
Exactly.
op- the other option that also comes to mind is Saint Maximin, right? Newcastle hasn't necessarily been the best team in Arak, but if he is fit, their fixtures don't read that bad, right? Barring that game week 13 fixture and 16. But again, if you are wildcarding in this game week, if he is fit, he has really looked on it, right? This
Mhm.
season, not the worst option. So, but all we are trying to say here is essentially Martinelli is not a must anymore, at least for a game week 9 wildcarder, or even if you already wildcarded or saving your wildcard, whatever it is, I think Martinelli could be let go at least for the next few games.
Unless you book transfers a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you will probably need him in game week 14, especially because they're playing Nottingham Forest. But again, it's
yeah.
for actually for one
Yeah.
game, because I saw that after 14 again they're playing I think against Chelsea, and I
Mhm.
think, oh, so it's not the best fixture after that. So I would
Yeah.
probably get uh, like City attacks at that time.
I
So
mean, then so much will change by then,
yeah,
anyways, right? Who knows? You probably won't want Martinelli anyways
at
by
all,
then,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Right. So there
Yeah,
could be
so
other things. Maria, I don't mind that. Just forget
anything you
about
want to
the
add here
deliveries.
in this
No, I think we
discussion?
covered it. You covered it
Tony
pretty
is
well.
a good, as we discussed.
Yeah.
So Isak to Tony, because Isak is injured, right? So Isak to Tony is a viable move now, because
Hmm.
they are playing against Bournemouth, and in the long run, their fixtures are decent. And Tony's number was good. He's on penalties, so he looked good. He's nailed as well. So I think in the long term, um, he
Yep.
should be a good replacement of
Yeah, I think
Isak.
if you have the money, the extra additional whatever 0.1, 0.2 million, you make that move. As
Yeah.
simple as that. Yes.
Yep. Let's move
Okay.
on to the next one. So this is the last one. It's kind of we kind of clubbed the rest of them. By the way, here we don't have Fulham here. Expecting everybody's going for Mitra already, and that's the only pick. But
Hmm.
others, right? So it's not the teams that like are talking points or like very interesting ones, but there are some teams I think we should discuss here, right? And they're not essentially enablers. There could be some players as well we didn't talk much, at least the community, but I think we should talk. So here, first, actually, I felt is the like Aston Villa fixture. If you see the third one, right? We are actually showing here Southampton, Wolves, Aston Villa, Leeds, Bournemouth, Man United, and Brighton, right? Somebody actually already asked about Brighton. We're going to talk about, but
Hmm.
here Aston Villa, if you see game week 9 to 12, Leeds, Nottingham Forest, and then Fulham in 12. I see goals here, really. I mean, those are the teams. Chelsea, okay, but other teams actually that will allow you to like attack, right? So I felt Watkins actually is a good replacement as well. That's at least that's my personal thought that Isak to Watkins could be one shout and could be a like upside chase as well. Uh, Another one is Leeds. Leeds fixture actually looked good too, right? And players like Rodrigo is coming back. Sinister is there. Bamford is coming back, right? So there are actually a lot of things, a lot of things we have to probably look forward. Now I feel like game week. I mean, I already like hit the wildcard button in game week 8 and 9. A lot of people, and it's all team dependent, definitely, right? But game week 13 wildcard also is a very good window now, and that's actually divided as well, right? That 9 to 12 and 13 to 16. The reason I said that, if you see these players, like say, just check the Nottingham Forest fixture, right? So basically, in 10, Aston Villa is playing against Nottingham Forest. So either Watkins or Bailey. Now in 11, Wolves is playing against Nottingham Forest in home. So either, I don't know, we are again Neto, or maybe
Neto again.
Neto again, or we have like an old guy, right?
Diego Costa.
Diego Costa. We'll see. In 12, Brighton is playing against Nottingham Forest. So like Gross or like Trossard.
Hmm.
So whenever you are wildcarding in 13, you can dead end your team in game week 12, because in game week 12, CT and Arsenal is blanking, so you can get rid of them. So you can actually take these players in 9, 10, 11, 12, and chase the upside and dead end your team, and in 13 you just bring those team players back, right? So this
Yep.
is really a very, I think, solid option for game week 13 wildcarders they can probably think of. Uh, Bournemouth, I mean, their fixture actually really good. I mean, their XG is only 0.48, but you cannot ignore the fixture here, right? Leicester City, Fulham, at least the players like Solanke or Billing, they're enablers. What can you really expect from them? Out of 5 games, they return. If they return 2 game, I
Hmm.
think you should be happy. I mean, rest of the game you can actually bench them, right? So that's why like players from Bournemouth are talking points here, right? Man United is the team that really never had any good run of fixture from 1 to 16, which is
Yep.
bad and good in a sense. Good because FPL manager didn't have to think about them, right? There is no FOMO here. And bad is basically like, there could be an option, but we didn't pick them, right? And still, it's kind of wait and see. Now, Brighton, as someone asked, right? So I think Brighton's fixture really don't look good. And again, their coach changed, so we have to kind of wait and see. If it would be Potter's Brighton, it could be different. But still, if you see from 9, 10, like Liverpool, Tottenham, right, and Brentford away, Nottingham Forest is the only good fixture they have in 12. And again,
Hmm.
Man City and Chelsea. It's a really bad run of fixture, right?
Yep.
So I don't see you take them, except if you want to dead end your team, as I said, in 12, you can probably get, because if they're playing Nottingham Forest, otherwise it's a no go. I don't see it. And even from defender side, I see there are picks in wildcard, and I think I can understand it because they are thinking about game week 12, because in game week 12 they can play those players, right? But which is good, and in the rest of the times they're gonna probably bench them.
Mhm.
So that's what I think. Overall, like all the teams that are interesting in three different ways. But yeah, do you want to add anything here?
Yeah, the only thing that I want to add is basically game week 12. If we specifically talk about that, that's the game week where City and Arsenal blank, right? So you want to have good enablers in your team who has at least playable good fixtures in game week 12, right? And that's probably one of the reasons that you probably don't want to hold on to someone like Martinelli. He blanks. Most of the people probably will be benching Haaland and Cancelo, right? Those guys. That's already a lot of fun, right? In on your bench. So you at least want to have some good players who you want or can play in game week 12, right? So that's where some of these fixtures come in. Leeds has a good fixture. Southampton has a good fixture. Brighton, as you said, has a very good fixture. So that's something that you have to think about. Right? Again, whether you are wildcarding in game week 9 or not, that's another thing. But uh, that's something has to be considered in consideration as well, I think. Apart from that, I think you covered it pretty well. I don't know if I trust the Villa or even the Wolves attack that much. Villa hasn't really looked on it from attacking perspective, maybe other than a few sparks from Bailey a little bit here and there. If anything, they actually have looked more solid on from a defensive perspective. But their wing backs are also out, right? I think both Dinia and Cash are injured.
Lucadina is out, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that kind of also hampers their attacking in some sense because those guys do cross a whole lot, right? So yeah, I don't know if I trust. First of all, I don't like Watkins as an individual player. If Villa were playing well as a unit, I wouldn't mind it, but I don't know if I want to get there. I think just given how good Tony has been, how good Brentford has looked like in that price bracket, I think I wouldn't say it's a no-brainer, but I think it's kind of doesn't make sense to go for someone
Yeah,
like
and also
Watkins
like
in terms
long
of
term as well, right? Tony is a long term pick too, and
yeah,
he's
their
proven as well
fixtures
so
look very
far.
good. Yeah,
So his number looks good. He's on penalty. So yeah, I agree. But again, I thought it could be a good um, punt as well. Maybe I mean the fixture are turning good, especially Nottingham Forest. So, anyways, but yeah, I think between Tony and Watkins, Tony is ahead. So I agree with you.
yeah, yeah. All right, we move on.
Yeah, I think let's move on to the boring goalkeeper discussion. I guess So
That actually has been probably the biggest discussion in the international break. Like, who is the goalkeeper to go for on a game week 9 wildcard?
right. So here basically we picked up those teams, right, where the goalkeepers could be interesting, and also we just pick the because whenever you pick goalkeeper, you don't want to like remove them, right, in the wild card after the wild card. So that's why we put like pick the whole game week 19 to 16 window, and
Hmm.
we looked at the opponent's xg instead of like breaking them between 12 and 13.
Yeah,
So essentially, we didn't bring here likes of Man City or Liverpool. That's because I mean I think definitely they are better, but again I think you want to keep your third spot open, right, for those teams especially. For Chelsea, we don't know the Kepa or Mendy situation yet, right? So that's kind of wait and see. So Loris could be, but again, I guess there could be other options there. So we picked those teams like Brentford, Wolves, Leeds, Newcastle, West Ham, Crystal Palace, and Everton, because those are the keepers from those teams could be of interest, especially.
hey
So
Wrangler,
seeing
you keep talking, okay? I need to get my charger. You
okay,
keep talking.
sounds good.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, here basically if you see right in terms of xg data of their opponent, so here the lower the xg data is good for that team, right? And fixture wise, Crystal Palace actually I felt is in the like better situation compared to others. So that's why I felt those who are wildcarding in game week 9, uh, if you need some money as well, I think Guaita is a good option. Their fixture is really good, except the Chelsea. The other fixtures actually look good for them, and they actually played good in their home, and they have some good home games as well, right? And Vieira actually also looked really tactically good as well. So I felt if Guaita is nailed, I know that there is some discussion here, like whether Guaita can be benched randomly. There is a discussion here. I don't know how this discussion came. Maybe he has been sometime trolls in last season, somewhat, but I felt like Guaita is a good pick. I mean, compared to others. Now, if you can afford Pope, yeah, definitely Pope is the probably the best option, because the fixture are fine, as well as he has a lot of bonus and save points as well usually. So definitely, if you can afford Pope, he's good. Apart from these two, I think West Ham's fixture are also good. If you see in the middle, so just next to Crystal Palace, so West Ham's fixture is good too, and that's why Fabianski is another better shout. Okay, so what I was saying, Kanta, is basically already covered the Crystal Palace and talked about Pope. That if you can afford Pope, Pope is a better shout, but Fabianski also is another one, right? Because West Ham's fixture, except Liverpool, as we mentioned, their fixture from 19 to 16 is really good, right?
Yep.
So Fabianski is another shout, that as a goalkeeper option, I felt. And apart from that, again, Brentford's fixture actually not bad either. So like likes of Raya is also good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, a lot of people are thinking, Begovic or actually Begovic and
Pickford.
Pickford together, right? Bundle. I really don't like much, to be honest. I mean, if you see next 8 game, yeah, they're probably looking better in terms of defense, but I see out of 8 game they're gonna concede in 6 game out of 8. I felt, and these really, I mean, I don't like it. Really, I mean, even
I
they're
don't
playing
uh,
Leicester City or Fulham, I think they're gonna concede and they're playing Man United, Tottenham, Newcastle. I mean, except Bournemouth, I feel like they're, and probably Southampton. I don't know. I feel in all other games they're gonna concede. So I don't like this. But again, I can understand that people want some guarantee that they want to save some money, because after game week 13, a lot of like options is gonna like pop up. Good teams are playing against weaker sides, so they want to keep some money. I can understand that, but I mean, I would probably go Guaita or you know. Um, Fabianski maybe. So that's what my thought. What do you think?
yeah, similar thoughts. I think I probably dislike Everton defense more than anyone else on this chart on all the other teams that are here. Maybe barring Leeds. I would trust more like a Brentford defense, even a Wolves defense, right? I'm pretty sure you spoke about Sa as well. He has, I mean, he somehow accumulates points, right? Last season also he did, and this season he also kind of seems on
Yeah,
it. And Wolves' defense has also looked better, kind of what they were doing in the second half of last season, right? So I don't mind that, but there are probably better options. Size is still what, like close to 5 million, right? Or probably somewhere in that range.
yeah,
So
I,
I think just from a fixture perspective, I absolutely agree that Guaita is the best pick from a clean sheet standpoint. One thing is that he doesn't make a whole lot of saves, right? Crystal Palace doesn't concede a lot of big chances, etc. So he doesn't almost ever get any bonus or like save points or bonus points, etc. So that's one negative for Guaita. So you'll is basically 2 or 6 pointer, right? So that's the only downside if you want to talk about it. I like Raya in general, but again, I don't know how much I trust their defense, especially this season. They kind of are more looking like more of an aggressive side, right? More of an attacking side. They're not thinking about defense as much. Elsewhere, you spoke about Fabianski. Actually, West Ham's defense has surprisingly looked good, right? And that
hmm
could be kind of a tactical thing also. I think they're like the fourth from the top, right? From
yeah, yeah.
XG
XG
considered.
considered, right? Yeah.
So the surprising actually, I couldn't quite trust that when I saw that data, but I had to go back and double check that that was true. So
Same
yes,
here. Same here. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had actually tough fixtures, right, in the first few games. Even with that, so they did pretty well. Uh, and now their good fixtures are upcoming, right? So Wolves, Fulham, Southampton, Bournemouth, even Crystal Palace, Leicester home. Those are good fixtures. So I don't mind Fabianski, to be honest. At like I think he is also 4.9 million,
No,
something like
he's
that.
5, I think.
It's 5 million. Okay. Yeah. So in that price range. So yeah, if I would almost say that if you are going for a 5 or 5 million ish goalkeeper, you either go for Pope or Fabianski. If you are looking for a 4.5 million goalkeeper, you just go for Guaita. I don't think
Yeah,
they're.
it depends like how much money you need actually for other players.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You need to think about your structure. But yeah, if you can afford to spend 5 million, I think Pope is still a very good option.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. I mean, sometimes people overthink this, like, okay, I have Trippier, do I want to double
Mhm.
up, etc. Doesn't matter, right? I mean, if you do think that Newcastle's defense is good, if you think that they will do good, get him. And
Mhm.
Pope again also one of those goalkeepers. He accumulates the points, right? Saves and bonuses, etc., etc. So yeah, I don't mind. Still, I think he got another rise today, like his 5.3. So that's the negative, right? So you basically with
Yeah.
0.2 million extra, you can get like an Allison or Ederson. Right? So he's already in that range. So if you don't already have him, I understand it's hard to go there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I actually don't mind Fabianski, to be honest.
PSB was saying Ward plus Everson. What do you think? The cheapest option.
I don't think I would have to hard to do that. He literally Ward has like 8 points in 8 games, right? They have conceded so
20,
many.
22nd.
Yeah,
Like
twenty
there are
second
20 teams, but 22nd he's
from an
really.
FPL points
Yeah.
scored. Yeah, and he just looks bad, right? So there were some rumors that maybe Iverson is going to get the place, but at least from the latest press conference, sounds like Ward will still have the position. So yeah, I don't personally like that. Again, if you really think that you are losing players because you have a 4.5 million goalkeeper versus a 4 million goalkeeper that for 0.5, but how much do you really lose, right? But I think in the goalkeeper sometimes we probably downplay this too much. Hey, this is a goalkeeper, how much we can really lose. Leicester defense just doesn't look good, right? So you are essentially, no matter what their fixtures are, they end up conceding goals, right? As like the above average guys say, like Leicester games start 1-1 almost, right? So I don't expect anything from them, to be honest, right? So, and you are essentially gaining just that 0.5 million, right? How much you are really buying in a midfield or a attack from a forward for that point 0.5? I know where you are coming from, PSB, but and I'm pretty sure you have a good logic behind it, good structure that you want to go with. I personally, I don't think I would have the heart to do that. Yeah, I
Okay.
know Derek is also on wildcard. So Derek, if you want to share anything on the chat,
I
what
think
you are thinking
he's going for
about.
Fabianski. I think.
I like that. I think I like that. As I said, I mean, if you're okay to spend 5 million ish, and if you don't already have Pope, I'm perfectly to go with Fabianski. I like that. Okay, move on.
Yeah, I think let's go to the Game fixtures.
Okay, so Game Week 9 fixtures, we already spoke about it. So there are a couple of derbies, Manchester Derby and the North London Derby. North London Derby is actually early morning, right? So it's only like for 7 hours from now, so almost there. So that should be an interesting game. Nothing much to target there from an FPL perspective. The Spurs boys generally do well against Arsenal, but this is an away game. I think Kane has only like one away goal against Arsenal, something like that. But generally does well against Arsenal, and he has kind of looked on it. Son coming back to form, but again, from an FPL perspective, I don't think we are looking at it that much. Uh, Apart from that, Man City and Man United play on Sunday, so there's the Manchester Derby. I think, uh, despite given how good Man United has looked in the last few games, I would be surprised if Haaland CO is again not 170, 180, right? So I'd be very, very surprised. So that's still a targetable game from a Man City standpoint. The big game is probably the Liverpool Brighton, right? And it's a big game from an FPL perspective because what we spoke about already earlier, game week 8 was a blank for Liverpool. A lot of people, including me, ourselves, we moved away from the Liverpool assets, right? There are a lot of people who literally has no Liverpool players in their team, right, anymore. The Salahs and the Trents, which would be very unlikely, right? Like if we are talking about this like 2 weeks back. So that's kind of almost they are now differentials, right? Who would think that Salah would be a differential at like 35% ownership or Trent at like whatever, I don't know what his ownership is now, but they are differentials now, right? So that is a targetable fixture, especially with Brighton having a new coach. I know Arif was asking on the chat that what do we expect from Brighton? We don't really know, right? I mean, they still have the players, but I don't know what Potter's methodology was, how much the new coach would be able to do with that, right? And I think what I read so far, uh, he's kind of primarily an attack-minded coach, right? So he would kind of go for it. He's not going to sit back at least. So it does look like a good game matchup kind of for Liverpool, right? So I think it's a very targetable fixture. Elsewhere, I don't necessarily see anything, right? Because already the four teams are playing, big teams are playing each other. The only one is probably the last game, like the Leicester Nottingham Forest. And
Mhm.
again, Leicester, if we are remembering last season's Leicester, they were pretty good at from an attacking perspective, not much defensive, but from an attacking perspective. This season, they really haven't looked on at it, right? Whatever Madison has done, that's about it. That has been their only bright spark. And even Madison's goals has been from very low XG chances, right? He has been way overperforming from his underlying stats. So it could be a good match just given how bad Nottingham Forest are. But I know we'll be talking about captains in a minute. But that is a targetable fixture because it's Nottingham Forest, right? And maybe Brentford, Bournemouth. But again, Bournemouth, outside that Liverpool loss, I don't think they have looked too bad, right? From a defensive perspective, they're not like quite the punching bags as say Forest. That Liverpool game was kind of an outlier, so maybe that. But any other fixture that catches your eye?
No, I think
Newcastle,
you covered it
Fulham.
well. I think, um, Leicester City was the one, and otherwise, all the big, not all, but several big teams are playing each other. So
Yeah.
essentially, the Liverpool game is going to be the key to see, FPL wise. Otherwise,
Yeah, even the Newcastle Fulham game, like I know a lot of people have Mitrovic, and of course, you are expecting goals. A lot of people actually have Mitrovic and probably double up on Newcastle defense as well. So hard to know what you expect from that game. But I kind of see that game being something like a stalemate, like even a 0-0 or something like that. Newcastle has drawn like 6 out of their 8 matches, right? Two, and they are kind of tight at the back. So I would not be surprised if it's a 0-0 game, to be honest, that Fulham Newcastle game. But yeah, not really much to target other than that this game week. All right, so let's move on to captaincy. Kind of nice segue into that. So, what are your thoughts so far for captaincy?
I think, yeah, as we discussed before as well, right? So it's if you go, I mean, statistically, Haaland, is in different zone now. He's nowhere near to anyone, or like no one is near to anyone. I mean, near to him. But Haaland is a good pick, But again, there is no clear-cut option, like captain's option this week, especially if you're on wild card and if you have Salah, right? Because Salah is playing against Brighton against home and in the home, and as you mentioned, right, like there is an speculation that Brighton might kind of open up because their coach has kind of like offensive mentality, and that's the perfect match for Liverpool. And Liverpool's like several key players are back, right? So I think Salah and Haaland will be split. A lot of people might be kind of interested to go for a cheeky punt with um,
Madison.
Madison as well because of the fixture, right? But I think it's gonna be well split between Salah and Haaland, especially those who are wildcarding in game,
Yeah.
or those who already have Haaland, Salah, right? Those who didn't wildcard yet. I think they are keeping Salah. A lot of people. So those folks might be kind of confused. But I think Haaland, as you mentioned, Haaland's EO is gonna shoot pretty high. PSB is with us. He's very good at captaincy pick, by the way. I
Mhm.
think in last season, his captaincy picks that thread actually is pretty good, and he's very good at picking captains as well. So follow him. And he was also mentioning that for this week, it's not a very clear cut option really. So that's my thought. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you are chasing ranks, I don't think Salah is the worst option this week. As I said before, also he's like barely 35% owned, and even the people that have him, not many would captain him, right? So there is a big opportunity to gain ranks, given that Haaland doesn't do anything, right? Or he doesn't also shoot up. But of course, I mean, again, Salah, this common idea, he being a midfielder, even if he just gets a penalty, that's almost close to being a 10-pointer, right? So those are kind of the things that you think about. But I mean, it's a very hard to go against Haaland. It's a derby match. I think he would want to score. Like he's just looks on it. Like I think even on in our previous video we were talking about it. Like he's like whatever, like the 125 player or something to get a touch on the ball or something. But whenever he does, he just is on it, right? So I'll find it very hard to go against him, even if I had Salah, to be honest. I don't mind it this game week. I don't think I would go for someone like Madison. As I said, he really has overperformed just because Forest defense is bad. It's hard to go for someone like Madison because Leicester attack hasn't looked that good either, right? So I wouldn't definitely do that. But yeah, if you have Salah and if you're trying to shoot up the ranks, if you're chasing rank, I don't think that's the worst captaincy shout. I think Salah would do pretty well.
Anyone else apart from these folks? I mean, KDB is
Mhm.
there too, but I think if you have Haaland, I don't
Uh,
think you're
yeah,
gonna
I don't
captain
think
him.
anyone would
Right.
captain KDB if you already have Haaland, yeah.
Yeah. So, and Spurs boys, I don't think anyone is captaining Spurs boys either too. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's between Salah and Haaland.
yeah, I
It's
think so. Those are the
it's
obvious,
50.
obvious
Yeah.
two. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't have Salah, so I'm gonna go with Haaland anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, even if I did have Salah, I would probably still captain Haaland. So I did go for Kane last game because I really thought that Kane was the better captain. At least somewhat paid out. I mean, not by much, but at least some sort of gain. But I don't think this game week, again, given the unknowns about Liverpool, right? There are still kind of things kind of gelling in. As you also said, there are players coming back. Like if someone like Jota plays, I think that's actually good for Salah. Right? Last season we saw that when Jota plays, it's actually good for Salah. Even if Firmino plays, that's good for Salah. But if say someone like Nunez start, I don't think that's as good for Salah from an FPL perspective,
Yeah,
right?
that's
It's
when
good.
actually he become kind of creative. I mean, he
Yeah,
had to
more on the
maybe
creative
creative
role.
role.
So
Yeah.
there are kind of unknowns there. So yeah, I think I find it very, very difficult to go against Haaland again. Unfortunately, I mean, I wish I could be
And that's
brave enough
difficult
that I
for
would go.
actually Liverpool as well, right? Because it's a new coach. They also don't know like how Brighton is
Yeah,
gonna set up. So it's challenging for them too, right? So
yeah. I think it's just too many ifs and buts in that game, in that Liverpool Brighton game, that discourages me to go there. I mean, of course, I don't even have him, but that kind of discourages me. Yeah, that's about it. Let's move on to our teams next. Right?
yep, let's move on.
All right, so this is my team. I still have not used my wildcard. Planning to wildcard in game week 13, possibly, unless something happens before that. Hoping to kind of dead end in 12 when City and Arsenal blank. There are issues in my team. I would not say I don't have any issues. There are issues, but not massive issues. Like even in comparison to like a game week 8 wildcard or a game week 9 wildcard, I have most of the players that the wildcarders have. The major difference is probably I don't have Mitrovic, right? So that's the core difference. And then I don't have Zaha. like a lot of game week 9 wildcarders especially would have Zaha. But at least right now, I'm not worrying about it. They are playing against Chelsea, so it's not like a horrible fixture anyways for Zaha, right? So I'm not too worried about at least this game week. So I already made my transfer. Actually, did it earlier in the international break because I was expecting Madison to rise. So I did Palmer to Madison because I had the extra funds from selling Salah last game week, right? I went from Salah to Bowen. That move I have a little bit regret about. I wish I had not done that, to be honest. Salah to Bowen, but again, I mean, Bowen did look okay, as you also said, against in the game week 8 fixture
Everton. Yeah.
against Everton, and then also their fixtures don't look the worst. So I still expect to get something from him. I think he is basically the main pivotal thing in my team, right? If Bowen does well, I think I basically am in line with the wildcarders, right? Game week 9 wildcarders. But yeah, that's the only move that I made. I don't think I'm making any other move. This game week, I'll just read out my team quickly. Pope, Trippier, James Cancelo, Saliba, Bowen, Madison Martinelli, Jesus, Salah captain, and Kane. Saliba is kind of the other sticky point. I mean, I know he has been getting the goals and assists, etc. But I don't quite like that I'm having to play him against Tottenham, right? I wish I had a better fourth midfielder potentially. I have Da Silva in my team who plays against Bournemouth, but it's Da Silva, right? So I don't really want to play him over someone like Saliba. So most likely we'll end up playing Saliba over him. Andreas is there, but again, I don't quite trust Fulham against Newcastle either that much. But yeah, so that's about it. Any
No,
comments?
I think your team actually is in very good shape, to be honest. Even, I mean, you don't have to think about Mitrovic here. Mitrovic, there is some, like um, injury issue as well, and Newcastle teams look good, right? So I don't think you're losing anything,
Yeah.
not having Mitrovic. Rather, you have Kane here, and you also have Bowen and Madison already, right? So you already kind of have the wildcard picks as well. Zaha can wait for a week or so. I
Hmm.
think, and also you have Jesus as well, right? So who had is in good form. So I think your team look really good. Arif was asking about your plan,
Plan
but
for 12. Yeah.
I think you already mentioned that, right? You're gonna dead end in game week
Yeah, I
by game
mean,
week 12. So
yeah, I wish I did not have three Arsenal players. I did not. I would not mind having two Arsenal and two City, and I could take care of them by game week 12. And that third Arsenal player is kind of a little annoying, given the fixtures and given the blank in game week 12. I do plan to move out Martinelli in game week 10 for Zaha. I have the funds for that, and potentially Jesus to Mitrovic in game week 11. So those are my two kind of planned transfers, unless something else happens somewhere. So Zaha and Mitrovic, and again, their fixtures, as we also said before, they're kind of wildcard picks. Their fixtures look good, etc. So I would potentially, when I get to game week 12, I would still have Haaland, Cancelo, and Saliba, right? So those would be my. I either can bench them, but anyways, I have not quite planned what I exactly want to do in game week 12. I might just take even a hit in game week 12 before I wildcard in 13. I'll be okay with that once I get there, I think. Um,
what's your
but yeah,
plan for bringing Salah? Like 13? Sorry, 12 or 13?
I think 13, more likely 13, but I'll see that. As I said, I have not quite
You
planned
have
for
to
game
sell
week 12.
Kane, right, to get Salah? Or Haaland,
Kane
you
or
can.
Haaland. Yeah, Kane or
Okay,
Haaland.
Haaland.
But yeah, it would be hard to sell Kane because Haaland is
Yeah,
already blanking in that game
right,
week,
right.
right?
Okay,
So
so basically Haaland actually. So you're gonna lose some money there, but it's okay.
yeah, so I'll have to think about it. I mean, it's I think 12 they are playing is to West Ham, so it's not
Hmm.
necessarily like a must-have. Their game week 13 onwards is where I absolutely want Salah, right? There is no doubt at all. But I don't mind not having Salah in 12. But
No,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
The thing is in game week 13, actually, like, for your case, well, actually, you're going to do wildcard, so you forget about it. Okay,
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
did FPL D's was asking about Andreas and Da Silva. I think your bench order tells about it, right?
Yeah, about yeah. I'm not 100% sure about it, but I think yeah, just because Da Silva plays against Bournemouth, I think there is a better opportunity to get something there than Andreas. But yeah, it's hard to tell. I think it can go really either way. Some of these 4.5 minutes. I mean, you never know. Like someone like Reed scores right, a goal out of nowhere. So yeah, hard to call this. I would probably go for Da Silva. This. Okay,
And
all right.
I
Let's go to
yeah.
yeah,
And I transferred out Reed, by the way, in my game wildcard. So
and then he scored right. Yeah. Who are you transferring out this week? Isak. He's
no
not
one.
playing. Probably
Yeah.
no one. Yeah. All right. So we'll talk
Okay.
about it. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I wildcarded last week. So it was, I think it was a good game week. I would say I'm not really. I mean, um, unhappy, except like in last game, or not last game, but I mean in the last day, like Arsenal kind of um, damaged my rank, but it's okay, especially Saliba. I didn't really expect Saliba is so highly owned, but it's all right. So I
Mm-hmm.
have Pope in goalie. I have Trippier, James and Cancelo, and I have Bowen, Madison, Martinelli, and KDB, and I have Isak, Haaland, and Mitrovic. So Isak is flagged. So my bench is not really in a good shape. So Isak is blank. So sorry, I mean he's not. He's injured. So I have to play either Andreas or Emerson. Now I can. I mean I don't have any money in my bank, so that's the problem. Otherwise, I would have gone for Tony or Watkins that I discussed before. But now one way is to downgrade Isak to um, to Solanke. That's one. Another is just like let play Andreas or Emerson. I don't know whether Emerson is gonna play or start, but
Mm-hmm.
that's one. And then assess this week, like if other options come up, and then next week I'll have two free transfer and I can think of, And in the meantime, Isak might be like fit too, because today, in the presser it came out that he's running, he's on the grass, so he might be fit. Who knows? So
Yep.
I don't know. I'm thinking to roll here. I mean, I know that the difference mostly will be like, Tony that people have, or I don't know. For your case, it's I don't know, the fourth defender
Mm-hmm.
versus my 11th player, right? So Andreas or Emerson. So what do you
Yep.
think? I mean, should I roll? If I don't, if I roll, then whom should I play?
Yeah, I mean, you probably take the chance with Emerson. Hope that he plays.
That's what I
I
was
think you
thinking
take the
too, right?
chance.
I
Yeah.
mean, with Andreas, I don't know. I mean, at least if Emerson plays, there could be a clean sheet there.
Yeah.
Arif is asking, would you get Tony to replace Mitri if I had the money?
I think he meant Isaac probably. Yeah. Tony to replace Isaac. I think that's what he meant. I think.
If he meant that, definitely I would do that, but I don't think he. I mean, okay, yeah. If it is Isak to Tony, as we discussed before, it's a
Yeah.
very good move, and it's a long-term move. I would do that, right? But I would have that fund. But if it is Mitro, I would not do that. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this game week you just kind of roll and take a look at the field. Next game week you have two transfers,
right,
more information, right? So I think you just roll again. That I think we sometimes we overthink about that 11th player. Rest of your
right,
team
right,
looks in perfect condition. You just
right.
how much are you really going to lose, right? So we
Exactly,
have
right.
to see.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually I think I'm gonna roll. I don't think I'm gonna get
Yeah.
Solanke because I have some other plans, because I might get rid of Martinelli, and in that case I have to do different ways. So I will actually wait. I'll probably get Solanke eventually, or as PSB was mentioning, like Broha could be an option under
Hmm.
Potter. We'll see. That could be a really budget enabler. Diego Costa could be an option. We'll see. We might see some options, right? So I thought, okay. And Isak might be fit too. And in game week 12, Newcastle's fixture actually is good too, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
it would be good if I don't have to transfer him out. So I think I'm
Correct.
gonna wait, and how much I'm gonna lose? Probably 3 or 4 points, hopefully. I mean, unless Danny, like Tony Banks, right? So, and I don't
Yeah.
have money anyways. So
Yeah. Arif was actually asking
Mitro,
Tony to
yeah.
replace
So
Metro. I would not. Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's what I already said. That
yeah. Yeah.
if it is Mitro, then I would not remove out Mitro for Tony, at least for now.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think that's the move for you. Just roll.
I think I'm gonna
PSB
go.
was asking to play Andreas. I don't mind that. I mean, it's kind of either way, right? But I probably would expect if Emerson plays, I would expect West Ham to keep a clean sheet against Wolves. So probably slightly higher margin in there, But yeah, I mean, I don't think there is
Yeah,
much to be honest. Just play some.
1 point or 3 point maybe, right? I think.
Just take the chance. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that's about it. Did we miss anything?
No,
Should we
ZD is an
cover everything?
wild card. I think he has having dilemma with
Son versus Salah.
Son
Yeah.
versus Salah.
Yeah, we
Otherwise,
already
probably it's
spoke about it.
pretty
Yeah.
much template. I think so. We will see tomorrow with team
Hmm.
reveal. But yeah, it'd be good if he could join. But um, we'll see him next time, I guess. So,
All right. All right. Sounds good. So yeah, exciting week ahead. I'm expecting to wake up for the North London Derby in a few hours. Again, good luck to you, Wrangler. Good luck to everyone else who was here. Thanks for being here. I know it's already late for a lot of the East Coast people in North America. So thanks for being here. Hopefully, we'll come back with our Game Week 10 video soon next week. All right.
yep.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.